you said that while the president's words were unwise, intemperate, and wrong, they may not qualify as incitement. Um, Even if it does not criminally qualify as incitement, impeachment is politically a remedy, is it not?
Well, politically, a remedy that overturns a duly held election. And so, if we're talking about doing such a drastic constitutional act like that, I would want to make sure that things like constitutional rights to free speech are at least debated and at least discussed before folks are removed from duly held public office when they're exercising those rights. And that conversation is not even going to be held in regards to this impeachment vote because it's a snap impeachment with no debate, no questioning of what was said and what kind of constitutional free speech rights are involved here.
You noted 7 times in your op-ed that this impeachment would be rushed. Isn't time of the essence given the circumstances, or not, in your opinion?
It is not. I mean, it's clear that they're talking about delaying this in the Senate for 100 days. So even Speaker Pelosi has indicated that there's discussions where they're going to hold this in the Senate. So President Biden politically can have clear air as he takes office. And, so if they're going to wait 100 days in the Senate, why the rush? Why the rush to judgment? And regardless of the rush before the 20th, the critical piece here is whenever we talk about impeachment, any type of rush is not the appropriate, in my opinion, approach, because you still have due process rights. You still have the right to present and have people investigate the facts and have people respond to those investigations before you rush into this extreme remedy that the Constitution provides with impeachment and removal of a duly elected official.
You said you just mentioned an investigation. You also mentioned this in your piece. We all watch this unfold in real time. What more do you believe needs to be investigated?
Well, because there are other allegations allegedly out there that, obviously we're still waiting for the final articles of impeachment. We got word today as I landed here in D.C. that maybe the articles are going to be amended even tonight before tomorrow. So there's all this misinformation potentially flying around as to what is there. But the questions about are grounds of the impeachment going to involve getting into the election and the veracity of the election? Are they going to get into issues associated with what happened outside of January 6th and the president? And these are all issues that are being thrown around as if they're stated facts, and they just aren't. I mean, we are still coming off one of the most traumatic days in our country's history, and that was January 6th. That's why this level of impeachment is something I don't support, but I do demand and agree that accountability is appropriate, and that's why I've advocated for censure in that same op-ed that you're referencing, because censure is still an action. It is still a formal reprimand by the United States Congress. It would be historic. It is something that has not occurred that I'm aware of in regards to a sitting United States president by a full sitting Congress, if adopted by both chambers, and this appears to be a bicameral effort that is going to occur in regards to censure if it can get a vote in the House and Senate. And so that is something that really needs to be taken into consideration. There's alternatives here for accountability than what we're referring to in regards to the snap impeachment.
You mentioned censured, and I believe the last and only president that was Andrew Jackson in 1834 for refusing to turn over documents. It doesn't seem to correlate with the same gravity of what's happening that essentially left 5 people dead, including a Capitol police officer.
And I appreciate that, and that is a legitimate point, and where people may disagree with censure at this point in time. But also, as I said in that op-ed, there is always the ability to pursue additional constitutionally viable remedies, if you would, accountability measures. There's commitment to do full investigations. If there's additional things like the 14th Amendment that should be pursued, that would be an avenue that could be looked at. So it's not as if this should just go away at this point in time if an investigation demands further action to be required.
The New York Times actually just released an article, and I'm going to guess since you just got off the plane, you probably have not seen it, but maybe you have. And it says that Senator Mitch McConnell has told associates that he believes President Trump committed impeachable offenses and that he is pleased that Democrats are moving to impeach him, believing that it will make it easier to purge him from the party. Hearing that, what are your thoughts?
First of all, I have not seen any such thing, and I would also be hesitant in these moving times to comment or to give veracity to news articles, to news reports. This is the time for us to be very diligent in our words. This is the time to make sure that any commentary that we offer, because America's on edge right now. America is still in this position following such a traumatic event on the 6th, and there's still 70+ million Americans that are very frustrated with these elections. In my opinion, that I do not know firsthand or nor have evidence in front of me on.
Yeah, so you said that impeachment would not suddenly change the minds of millions of Americans who still do not recognize the election of President-elect Biden as legitimate. What should that be? That the reason why the impeachment should not happen, should that be a standard for impeachment?
What I'm referring to there is that the snap impeachment is going to further corrode and erode the credibility of the tools of our Constitution, such as impeachment. And folks are already questioning this election clearly. They have rejected, many have rejected this election, and they have lost faith in our institutions. And so what I'm referring to there is not on impeachment itself per se. It's the fact that we have to do much to heal this country and to bring credibility and to bring confidence back to the American people who have lost confidence in our institutions. And the loss of confidence in the elections is an example of that. And that is why I think this is going to compound the problem. It's going to add to the division, and it's going to add to the potential additional raising of violence in America, because right now this isn't bringing people together. This is dividing folks. I mean, I've seen the internet reports. I'm seeing the FBI reports. I'm getting briefed on the rising risk of violence that this is adding to. And so that is exactly why I'm concerned that this impeachment is not uniting our country. It's further dividing in a time when division is something we should fight against.
You say, division is what we're facing, but many people believe that it's President Donald Trump that is dividing the country. So what are you going to do to bring people together?
I hope what I've done and demonstrated in my tenure in Congress, what I've done with the Problem Solvers Caucus, what I've done to show that we can have disagreements as proud Republicans and proud Democrats and still continue the fight. I hope by demonstrating what I did on the floor of the House on the exact evening when it was attacked by this mob violence, and walked across the aisle and stood with my friend from New Jersey, Josh Gottheimer, on the Democratic side, and say we need to come together as a country and continue to reach out to people like President-elect Biden and say to him, I'm begging you, I'm looking to work with you, and if you're offering a sincere hand to govern together and to unite this country, I reach out to it, I join you. Does not mean I will agree with you. Does not mean I will not be a proud Republican and bring my Republican ideas to the table and fight for them. But it does mean I am willing to respect you, I'm willing to listen to you, and I'm willing to try to find common ground. And all I can do is control how I do this job, and that's what I'll continue to do as we go forward.
You also said if our leaders make the wrong decision in how to hold him accountable, it could damage the integrity of our system of justice, further fan the flames of division, and disillusion millions of Americans, all while failing to accomplish anything. My question is, if our leaders do nothing to bring the president to justice, what does that say about our system?
That is exactly why I recognize and hear the voice of those, especially those on the Democratic side, and I join with them. That accountability needs to occur. That's why I do support the censure action. That is a historic piece of legislation. It sends a message of accountability. And I also say to them, once if we go through those due process rights, once we have a debate about constitutional free speech rights, if there's yet still things to pursue, like the 14th Amendment, like additional potential prosecutions that need to occur, this should not be just turned away because we get to January 20th and it's over. This is a much deeper conversation we need to have as a country, and what we should not do is a snap impeachment that is going to potentially not allow us to get there because the division doesn't allow us to have that honest conversation with each other.
When you mentioned that all responsible parties, including President Trump, must face justice, what does justice look like in your opinion, and who are these other responsible parties that you're mentioning?
Yeah, what I'm referring to there is obviously all of the events of January 6th, all of the individuals that are involved, all the folks that engaged in mob rule, all the folks that potentially were getting initial indications that there are folks potentially involved in organized efforts beyond that happened on January 6th and that are happening as we speak in regards to additional attacks on areas of the country. And I'll just tell you that needs to be held to account, not only for that day, but again to continue to go forward.
I'm going to kind of circle back to like the legitimacy of the election, and what are you going to do to ensure that ensure the Americans that the election is legitimate and that will you say that there was no widespread voter fraud, as did William Barr, the national security agencies, and so did Lindsey Graham, as well as Mitt Romney?
So, as I've said, and I was one of the first to recognize President-elect Biden as just that, President-elect Biden, and as I recognized and did not object to the electoral college votes, and as I've done with my actions in working with the transition and committed to the transition going forward, I recognize this election. I recognize that these issues of fraud have been adjudicated at the state level, and that this is the appropriate outcome. This is a legitimate election that has resulted in President-elect Biden becoming President Biden on January 20th, and that's right, and that's correct. And what I will say, however, that we can always do better in our election process. We can always do better because in every election there has been integrity issues. There's always been issues and especially as we go in with new technology. COVID-19, we had tremendous change in election laws. We had tremendous change at the state levels, and various states did different things. And I think we always have to be diligent to make sure that our election processes are those that are the most secure, and integrity is paramount. So that effort shall continue, and I look forward to a future review where if there are integrity issues, that they be removed and that integrity of our elections secured.
But you would say that if there was mild voter integrity issues, that there wasn't significant amount enough to change the outcome of the election.
Well, of course, Ariel, and as I just indicated to you, and I've indicated to people multiple times, my position on it is very clear, that even right after the election, with my position recognizing President-elect Biden as just that, as I recognized and did not object to the electors, and that I did not raise and looked at the judicial proceedings and came to the conclusion that those judicial proceedings did not raise the level of widespread fraud that was alleged. And so, I recognize that President Biden is the winner of this election, and that we should move forward as a nation on January 20th. We will have a new president, and we will go through the remainder of this transition of power, if I have anything to do with it, in a peaceful and honorable way.
Given the tools that lie before Congress, it is clear that pursuing impeachment only days before President-elect Biden is inaugurated is not the answer. Why is that clear, and does an impeachment in itself send a message that his actions were wrong?
Yeah, because the number of days that we're dealing with here doesn't allow for that full investigation, the respect of those due process rights that are provided by the Constitution, and those issues of free speech that we've been discussing. And so, to get into all those issues right now, and legitimately should, not only for this impeachment process, but all future impeachments, and the risk that we were potentially delegitimizing constitutional underpinning of impeachment. I can see folks using impeachment now just as another political tool. I can assure you, I've heard members here in Congress saying, well, if this is the standard of impeachment and we can do snap impeachments, then we shouldn't we be allowed to raise impeachments weekly in Washington, D.C.? And that is something we should avoid. We should not rush to judgment in America. We shouldn't, and that is something I pride myself in being part of. We should always try to be reasoned. We should always avoid the emotion of the day, even though we are all passionately moved. I mean, we lived through a traumatic event as a nation and as an individual, living through it and seeing the fear and seeing the attack on our democracy. There's an emotional side of me that is angered by to a level that rarely I've ever exhibited, and an emotion that I exhibited on the floor of the House on January 6th. I was shaking. I was shaking. I was so emotional. But at the end of the day, I try to be measured. I try to be constrained and committed to the Constitution going forward. And if you do that in a limited time, a very short period of time, and take these snap type of impeachment measures, you threaten the whole foundations of what our Constitution is about.
Great. Okay. And should we be expecting a censure resolution soon?
My understanding is that has been dropped and is going out. So it's not only bipartisan, it's bicameral, and it's bipartisan on both sides. And so that, I hope, sends a unifying message to the country that there's still Republicans and Democrats that can work together, and that we recognize that accountability and justice is important at this moment, but also that we also have to recognize the issues that a snap impeachment represents to our country's security, stability, and future.
Great. Thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate it.